Hello, everybody. Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox. Today, we're giving our predictions for NFL Honors Awards. That was just last week. First, let's welcome in our guest, Danny Brasco, Mr. Monday. Danny, I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. How's it going?
It's been a minute, Katie. I've been starved for the Moxie Bets podcast. Going good, though. NFL season so close, so I know I'll be chopping it up with you regularly about football, and I'm excited to get into some awards this show.
Yes, absolutely. Now, hand up, though. I did not actually watch the ESPYs this year. I don't know what I was doing on that day, but I missed them this year. But let's talk about coming up in the following year, 2024. Or no, 2023. Why am I trying to jump 2 years ahead? All right. At this point, let's just get into it right now and start with MVP, Danny. Mahomes, obviously, the favorite, plus 650. I don't know if you've been watching quarterback. I've already finished it. And to see Patrick Mahomes do what he does to be the best has been extremely interesting for me. Then you got Joe Burrow plus 750, tied with Josh Allen. Hurts at 12-1, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. Who do you think is going to win this one? What are you thinking?
So speaking of quarterback, I've been loading up my schedule and looking for a day that I can just binge it through one shot on a day that I don't have anything to do. I can't wait to watch that. After I do, I'll imagine it'll be really hard to go away from Patrick Mahomes, seeing the inner workings of what a guy like him does.
Yeah.
But I'm imagining, of course, he'll be there for the award amongst maybe five guys. But maybe there's some voter fatigue and they don't want to give the repeat. So I'm going to go off the board actually here. And I do, of course, love the quarterback selection here. It's a quarterback's award, but I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers on a long shot at plus 1,600. Really, Katie, it's the narrative. We talked about the beginning of their season and how stacked it is against teams like the Cowboys, the Chiefs. I believe they play the Eagles, even in division, the Patriots. If it goes well in the beginning, the narrative in New York is going to praise him, a hero. Robert Saleh, they could just totally turn the tides here. So I'm going to take a long shot that maybe he makes a miracle happen in New York, and Rodgers has a chance to win his third MVP award.
Well, it's so funny that it's a long shot, but it's already a two-time MVP leader, right? And he's back with his old coach, or old offensive coordinator. And yeah, it's a long shot, but it's not a crazy bet to make. Aaron Rodgers to get his third, and we always talk about there's nothing about a spiteful Aaron Rodgers that I want to bet against. I'll go ahead and tell you that. So I really like this play. I think I've talked before the break when we were going through and doing division winners and leaders. Danny, I'm really big on the AFC North this year. It's a bet that I made for the AFC North to win the Super Bowl at plus 450. I got a bet on the Bengals plus 1,000 to win the Super Bowl. And I also like the Ravens to win their division at plus 275. So I got to go AFC North here. And I'm looking at Burrow at plus 750 or Lamar Jackson as my kind of long shot at plus 1,400. We talk about this all the time. Burrow seems to be Mahomes' kryptonite, right? The only quarterback that's beat him 3 times. I will say that's why I wasn't watching the ESPY Awards. I was binging quarterback. All right. So I'm still loyal to the soil here by watching an Omaha production show over an ESPN show, but that's okay. That's all right. All right. So I'm liking Joe Burrow, Cincy, obviously, arguably the best trio of receivers in the NFL, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. They made some improvement on their defense in the draft. I think they're going to be a very scary team. Obviously, they lost the AFC Championship game last year. He's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And then you've got Lamar, re-signed, added top talent at receiver, OBJ, Zay Flowers. They got rid of Greg Roman. He's another person like Aaron Rodgers where you don't want to count him out, right? So I'm sticking with the AFC North because I really feel high about them. I'm going to go Burrow as my number one choice. And for my long shot, I'm going to go Lamar Jackson.
I like the long shot too, especially with the Ravens retooling. You mentioned a lot of the offensive weapons they added, but under the radar, something that I always handicap very heavily in football is offensive line play, game to game, and of course, over the long term of a season. And the Ravens look to have a bolstered offensive line. They drafted for it, and they rank right now preseason. Of course, we don't know how they're going to pan out, but they're top 5 line. So if they're really protecting Lamar, he stays healthy, he can run, he can be that dynamic, quarterback that he is, then I love your long shot bet here in the AFC North where they might actually win that division.
Okay, great. We're on the same page here, like in a lot of the same stuff. Interesting is on the last show we had Will Brinson on, and there is actually a bet on Caesar Sportsbook that you can make that is basically Mahomes, Burrow, Allen to win MVP. That's at plus 190, or the field at minus 240. Now we already know that I like Burrow to win this. Mahomes favorite for a reason. Allen, I'm kind of I bet on the Bills a lot and they break my heart a lot. So I'm a little bit gun shy to do there. But if you get those three at plus 190, now I know again, you like Aaron Rodgers here for this, but minus 240 for the field to bet against those three at plus 190, I'm just not doing it.
And it's hard because it feels like, am I taking the bait, right? You give me those three names
Yeah.
at plus money,
Yeah.
almost 2-1.
Yeah.
How do I not take that? I got the last MVP and the best player in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes. I got the face of the NFL, up and coming, the young gun, Joe Burrow, and then Allen, who has all the talent in the world to potentially win it. But like you said, it's been an emotional roller coaster being a fan of Josh Allen, the Bills, backing them. Will he be my hero, or will it all collapse swiftly? Yeah. So look, I love those first two names. Allen certainly has the potential. I want to take the bait at plus 190, but minus 240 is the reason there's a whole lot of other names in that field other than three guys to win the awards. There's a reason it's favored. I'll take the bait. Give me the plus 190.
Yeah, all right. I'm taking the bait on that one too. And look, the Josh Allen thing too. Brian Daboll, I think the loss of Brian Daboll was a huge thing for Josh Allen. He had so many interceptions last year, and I don't know. So it remains to be seen. Plus, you got Allen on the cover of Madden this year. The whole Madden curse.
Madden curse. Madden curse is real. The Madden curse is real.
Yeah. So it's really Burrow Mahomes for me and taking that bait with the plus 190. All right, let's jump to coaches here. Since there could be some interesting picks for this season, here's a look at those odds at Caesar Sportsbook. You got Arthur Smith, Atlanta, at plus 1,000. He's tied with Dan Campbell. I like to call Detroit the Fighting Dan Campbells. They're the top of the leaderboard there. They got Sean Payton, very interesting with Denver. Let's see what he does with Russell Wilson, if he can get him cooking again. Then you got Matt Eberflus with Chicago, plus 1,300. Doug Peterson, Jacksonville, a pretty good contender, and it goes down from there. Who was your pick, or bet rather, for Coach of the Year?
This was one of the harder selections I had to make. I really racked my brain because all the options you just presented have a great case to be made for them. And I'm really trying to build out narratives, right? Say the season goes ideally, and it's behind the great game planning and structuring of the team and the organization of the coach. I could really see Doug Peterson, the Jaguars, winning that division, and him having, so much praise for what he's done, turning that entire organization around after the Urban Meyer disaster. The Lions have a clear-cut path in the North there to actually win the division. They're the favorites, all behind we'll bite your kneecaps when we're down, Dan Campbell's. Like you said, the Fighting Dan Campbell's. Yeah. I did not love the guy, too. He's just like a crowd favorite, cries when his team loses, lays his heart on his sleeve. So for that reason, I'm going to end up picking Dan Campbell because I feel like the Lions can actually win this division this year. But, man, I mean, Salah, the Jets do great. Arthur Smith behind the rush attack, getting Bijan Robinson. I love all these options. Yeah. And I just love Dan Campbell the most, his personality and his team and the identity. Yes. So I'll pick him for that reason. Yeah. But I'm interested to hear what you've got because I love all these.
So I love Dan Campbell too. And I love all of the little Dan Campbell isms and things that he does. And he's such a likable guy and he cares so much about his team. He's crying on the podium, knowing that they can do better. Like, he's a guy that you want to root for, and he's definitely a guy that you want to win this award. So I like that. I'm going same division, but kind of a little different. I'm taking Matt Eberflus with Chicago at plus 1,300. Now, Daboll did win last year in his first season. And actually that was just the 9th time since 2000 that a rookie head coach has won that award. So Eberflus is not a rookie head coach. He was the first-year head coach last year, and it was an absolute disaster. Okay, worst record in the league is what Chicago had. However, they did take advantage of their draft capital by dealing that #1 overall. They added some pass catchers for Field, specifically DJ Moore. Excited to see how that works out. And defensively, Chicago's always been pretty solid, but they added a bunch of linebackers as well, which I think is going to be helpful to them. So I just like the narrative and the story of the worst team in the NFL, second-year head coach getting in there, turning things around in Chicago. There's no more Aaron Rodgers in the division, so nobody owns the Chicago Bears except for the Chicago Bears right now. And, they're a frisky pick for me actually in this division as well. We talked about this before the break. So if they can do well in the division, if all of a sudden Justin Fields becomes this incredible passer along with what we know he could do in his ground game, Eberflus is kind of a little sneaky pick here at plus 1,300.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is sort of the like can't go lower than the bottom logic I had. And then when I was looking at the
Yes.
Bears, you nailed it for the Eberflus. Like they were the worst team in the league last season. Well, why not make huge improvements and point to the coach as the reason they've done so behind a star quarterback? The other idea of the can't go lower than the bottom is the Sean Payton angle, where look, how bad were the
Yes.
Broncos in their first year with Wilson,
Uh,
right?
yeah.
It's got to
Mhm.
improve. You've got to think he turns it around. So maybe, Denver has a total shift that does a 180 and Payton wins it. I like Eberflus and Payton for those kind of can only go up from here spots.
Yeah, like frisky on the edge there. I think when I think about what team am I most interested to see next season, it is definitely the Broncos because look, we were on the show last year. Vibes were high. Everyone thought that the Broncos were going to be a huge threat in the AFC, and Russell Wilson was going to do all of these amazing things, and they were awful, and he was awful, and a lot of that, can be put on the coach. You get someone like Sean Payton. I am so interested to see what the Broncos look like this year. They bolstered up their O line as well. Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I think I'm again most interested to see what that team can actually do. Now, when we look at the offensive player of the year, Christian McCaffrey, of course, is the favorite here, plus 1,100. He's tied with Jamar Chase. And then you got Justin Jefferson, the winner last year at plus 1,200. Tyreek Hill, Derrick Henry, Debo Samuel. Down from there, who do you like for the offensive player of the year?
At plus 1,100, it doesn't feel so much like chalk, but he is at the top of the board. And I hate to go with chalk, but I'm comfortable taking Christian McCaffrey here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that'll be music to your ears, your 49ers ears. But man, this is his second year in the system, and I think it's going to go even better than the half the year he had previous. Kyle Shanahan so well in that running offense, and he does it so well establishing that. I think McCaffrey's really going to settle in this year and just be a problem. I imagine they'll give him more touches than look to take away some of the run game from Debo, just to preserve Debo. Of course, he's so dynamic, they'll use him. But McCaffrey in that system seems so tailor-made. And I really like it. There's a number of other concerns for some of the other players on this list. Henry just feels like a year older. Of course, he could be King Henry, but coming off that list Frank last year, he did pretty well and actually performed better than I thought he would. But still, another year older. And Taylor coming off ankle surgery. I can't quite trust that, especially for a running back. So out of these guys and their systems and scenarios, I think McCaffrey, the pass-catching dual threat back, will rack up numbers this year and potentially win this award.
It's so funny because CMC was such an impact guy last year for the 49ers. It's so easy to forget that he was a midseason trade. He wasn't even there for the whole season. It's like, what can we expect for him under a full season with Kyle Shanahan? Well, offensive player of the year is what I'm saying. I think that's what we can expect from him. He should have already got this award as far as I'm concerned. Just like you said, he's the Swiss Army knife of the Niners offense and really of the NFL. He's a running back. He's a wide receiver. He could play quarterback. He could block. I mean, the guy does it all. He is one of the best pass catching running backs of all time. He holds records for having the first and the second most receptions in a single season for any running back in the NFL in the history of the league. 116 and 107 catch campaigns. The guy is a beast, and it was very interesting to me that he kind of didn't get any votes or just a couple of votes last year for this. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's going to be a complete and total beast. So yes, Christian McCaffrey, I'm sorry. I don't really think anyone else can win this campaign. Of course, barring any injuries, which please God, keep Christian McCaffrey safe for us this year. Now looking at the other side of the ball, defensive player of the year, Micah Parsons is the favorite, plus 550 with the Cowboys. Then you got Myles Garrett, plus 675. TJ Watt, plus 750. Nick Bosa, the reigning champ, 1,100. And it goes down from there. Who are you looking at for defensive player of the year?
Yeah, it's more chalk for me, but again, plus 550. How do I look away from Micah Parsons? I really like all these names on this list, but again, I mentioned voter fatigue as a potential reason not to pick someone else. Maybe some voter fatigue with Nick Bosa or TJ Watt, guys that have won this award so far. And look, this will be Micah Parsons' third year. His first 2 years, he came damn close to winning this award. I mean, he didn't get the votes he needed, but he's starting to get towards that trajectory of being just a field general on defense that is going to be impossible to deny. He's a pass rusher. Usually this award goes to pass rushers and edge rushers, but when he plays that kind of linebacker spot, he can lead the league in tackles if he wanted to. So, I mean, this guy does it all. And with the Cowboys bolstering the defense even more, adding Stephon Gilmore in the secondary, if there's more lockdown, if there's less open receivers, that's more time and more sack opportunities for Parsons. So I just feel like if the Cowboys defense is going to get better, it'll be because Micah
Yeah.
Parsons is leading it alongside their additions. So I got to pick him as the favorite at plus 550.
Yeah, and Micah Parsons, his campaign started so strong last year. He was the favorite for a very long time, and then Nick Bosa just kind of came out and crushed everybody. So I like that pick, and I kind of think you can't go wrong with a lot of these guys at the top. You mentioned voter fatigue, but if TJ Watt is healthy, he's getting my money. Okay, the guy is just unbelievable. Until last season, when he had a career low of 5.5 sacks due to, of course, tearing his pectoral muscle, which he still came back and played last season. He's finished top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year voting for 4 consecutive years before winning in 2021. The guy is just an absolute animal. His impact on the Steelers is undeniable. He was able to play only 10 games last year. They went 8-2 when he was on the field. He didn't play for 7 games. They went 1-6. TJ Watt changes games, and I think that he could do that again for the Steelers this year. I'm actually worried about Purdy in week 1, okay? If Purdy is the starter in week 1 and you got TJ Watt coming after you, I am worried that we will see another injury. So I think TJ Watt is just a force to be reckoned with. And again, if he is healthy, I can't vote for anybody else. I can't bet on anybody else. Even though I love Nick Bosa, I don't think he's going back to back.
Yeah, you better protect that blind spot when he's coming around the side. Purdy, watch out, buddy. Week 1, you're going to be holding your breath.
Holding my breath. All right, let's talk rookies here. Offensive Rookie of the Year. You got Bijan Robinson from Atlanta plus 300, Bryce Young, Carolina plus 400, CJ Stroud, Jahmyr Gibbs, Anthony Richardson, 9-1 there, and it goes down from there. Who are you liking for Offensive Rookie of the Year?
So back to the top of the board I go. I know maybe it's corny, but Bijan Robinson.
You're so choppy today.
I know, right? I feel like I'm going to draw a line, play some hopscotch here, but all chalk for me so far. Bijan, my goodness, I think he's going to have a sick rookie campaign. Now, at 9-1, I was considering Richardson or Jackson Smith and Jigba here. I think he'll be great with Geno Smith, maybe volume receiver. Richardson could be a breakout in his first year. Even if we don't think the Colts will be so successful, we think he'll run amok, have some huge plays and rack up the stats potentially. But I think the person that's going to do that more than anyone is Bijan in Arthur Smith's run-focused Falcons offense. And he does so much. He just pumps the run. And to the tune of top 3 in every significant rushing category for Falcons running backs last season. And I think he's going to really exploit that even more with a guy like Bijan, who's a little mini tank out there. So I think he's going to be the beneficiary of a perfect system for him. The Falcons have a top 5 ranked offensive line, and they did really, really well last year. They drafted, again, top pick offensive lineman, Bergeron, I believe. So if he's pushing the pile forward for a guy like Bijan, who will be their goal line back too, a lot of 1-yard scores available for him, I think. We could see some good numbers in his rookie campaign. So give me Bijan, Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I like that. And, he's a favorite for a reason. And if you're going to go chalk, I agree with that. And that's someone you certainly want to look at in fantasy as well for all of the reasons that you just laid out. If you go a little bit down the board, I do like Richardson. I know you said you were kind of looking at them. I like him for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Odds are 9-1. Other books, shout out to Caesars, because other books have him as low as 6-1. So if you're going to grab it, definitely grab it here with us on Caesar Sportsbook. He is leading the league in rookie merchandise sales. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Colts have been starving for a franchise quarterback since Andrew Luck retired. So the vibes are really high. He's still developing as a passer, but he does have that dual threat ability. And you think about Shane Steichen, right? And what Shane Steichen was able to do with Jalen Hurts. And you have someone who's kind of similar with Anthony Richardson. The ceiling is really, really high for him. So I'm gonna grab this number, this 9-1 for Offensive Rookie of the Year. But again, you can't go bad going at the top of the list, like you said there. But I'm gonna roll the dice a little bit on this one. Looking at Defensive.
Well, Katie,
Rookie
before you move on, I
Year,
actually wanted to make a quick point. I like that you brought up the merch sales, because something when I always bet on sports is I like to what I call handicap the business of the sport. Of course, we got to look at the gameplay and what's happening on the field, but what makes money for the business, right? What does well for the NFL or whatever sport you're betting on? And in a world where Anthony Richardson is leading rookies in merch sales, maybe there's a world where they want to build his star up and end up giving him this award when it's all said and done.
It's so funny that you mentioned that too, Danny, because I know that you obviously handicap a lot of UFC, and no one is in more of like a business than I think the UFC and some of the matchups, and that I know you like to call them the matchmakers in making these things. So it's interesting, to apply that also to the NFL and looking at it from a business perspective. What's the best for the league? Now, I know we're not conspiracy theorists here necessarily, but it is something to look into. So I agree with you.
Tinfoil hats are on always.
Oh my gosh, what was that movie? Signs, right? Ugh. Whatever happened to M. Night Shyamalan or whatever his name was? He had great movies, and then just I think he's funding his
M
own
Night's
movies now.
either making a classic or a complete
Yeah,
flop. Nothing in
yeah.
between.
There's nothing in between. I think he's actually funding his own movies now. But anyways, he should start funding our bets. If he's got that much money to blow, then go ahead, M. Night Shyamalan, and toss this money over here. I will try to make a better buck than your movies have been. All right, let's look at Defensive Rookie of the Year. You got Jalen Carter as the favorite with Philadelphia outside of Alabama, plus 500. Will Anderson Jr. in Houston, the number 2 overall, plus 500. Tyree Wilson, Devin Witherspoon, Lucas Van Ness, Christian Gonzalez. Who do you like for the rookie or for the Defensive Rookie Player of the Year?
So I like a lot of these names, but again, I'm going systems and fits and first year breakouts. And how do I look away from, once again, top of the board, Will Anderson here going to Houston with new coach DeMeco Ryans as the perfect head coach to lead you, your star defensive player, top 5 selection in the draft, right? And I think he's extremely NFL ready. He's going to get to the quarterback. He's going to rack up tackle numbers, and he's going to learn so much from being the field general, the guy who's going to be tasked with leading that defense in his first year under DeMeco Ryans. And I think it's going to go well for him. Look, also, we don't expect the Texans to do too well. You know what that means? They're going to be playing defense a lot, Katie. So while they're on the field, he gets a chance to tackle guys, rack up those numbers, and have the stat sheet to show that he deserves this award afterwards. So with Ryan and the Texans just being on the other side of the ball a lot this year, I like Will Anderson.
I like Will Anderson as well. I also kind of a little bit further down, like Witherspoon at plus 700 with Seattle. You know, for this award, it really has to be a round 1 player, usually high round 1 to have a chance at this. 6 of the last 7 have been top 12. Not Leonard, though. Parsons and Lattimore just outside the top 10 as well. Only 3 since 1988 have gone outside of round 1 in the 30s or so. So I like those, and I like the top. If I'm going long shot a little bit, I kind of like cornerback. Steelers, Joey Porter Jr. at plus 2,000. He's tied for the 9th best odds to win the award despite being drafted in the 2nd round, right? So I talk about, it's got to go to someone in the 1st round 9 times out of 10. But he has the best odds out of any 2nd round pick to become the Rookie of the Year this season for the defense. And I do like that he slid in the draft a bit. I think a lot of draft analysts thought that he was going to go in that 1st round. He slid a little bit. Now he's kind of playing with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. We talk about these kind of spiteful guys. I always like to bet on that. And I do think that he's going to fit in beautiful with the Steelers' already suffocating defense. I talked to you about how worried I am about week 1 and my Niners not really knowing what's going on in the quarterback situation. And the award did go to a cornerback last year with the Jets, Sauce Gardner. So Joey Porter Jr. plus 2,000. Far down the board. Is it likely that'll happen? No. Is it worth a sprinkle? Yeah, I think so. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. You're watching Moxie Bets. We'll be right back. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, welcome back to Moxie Bets here with Danny Brasco, Mr. Monday. Now we're going to take a look at some of the leaderboards and things that you can bet on there. Most passing yards, Patrick Mahomes, the favorite, plus 400. And then you got Herbert, Burrow, and Allen. Herbert and Burrow tied at plus 600, Allen plus 900. Kirk Cousins, which you haven't started to watch quarterback yet, but he is an extremely likable guy. I've already started walking back all the trash talk that I've said about him over the last 100 years that he's been in the league. He's at plus 900. And then you got Trevor Lawrence, kind of an interesting choice there because he's starting to heat up at plus 1,500. Who are you looking at for the most passing yards?
Man, I wish I would look at Kirk Cousins. I've actually liked the guy because I've made a ton of money fading him over the course of my NFL betting career. But I'm sure I'll like him once I start watching quarterback. But I'm not picking him, and I'm surprised to see him on this list. Maybe not surprised because he's got great weapons at wide receiver. But I think I'll be going with Herbie fully loaded Justin Herbert this year. And he finished 2nd last year. I feel like we're going to be in lockstep here because he finished 2nd last year. But so much went wrong for him on a snake bit cursed franchise. Keenan Allen could not stay healthy. Mike Williams could not stay healthy. Those are top two receivers, missed a ton of time. The play calling was, a guy that loves to go the check down. So many check downs to Austin Eckler there. Now Kellen Moore comes in. I think a much better play caller fit for Justin Herbert.
Yes.
And look, Herbert had a torn cartilage in his ribs, and he just grimaced and gritted through it for a lot of the season. Like, all to the tune of, some underwhelming games, but the guy didn't complain or make excuses once, all to the tune of finishing second in the league. So say things go well. Now what happens? Now he's going to lead the league in passing yards if his receivers can stay healthy. He can stay healthy if he has better play calling. So for those reasons, I think Justin Herbert plus 600 is definitely the play.
100%. And I'm with you on this one. Mahomes last year had 5,250. All the reasons that you just said were Herbie was not fully loaded last year. And look, I think we both were high on the Chargers last year. We were both high on Herbert last year. And look, anything can happen in this league. And those bets did not cash for us. But for all of the same reasons that you said, I mean, in 2021, Herbert had over 5,000 yards. I think we're going to see more and actually even better of a year than he had in 2021 in terms of his passing game. So I'm agreeing with you on this one. Let's go Herbie, hopefully fully loaded this year. When we look at the rushing yards, Nick Chubb leads the pack here, plus 650. Then you got Jonathan Taylor coming off of a down year last year for him. He was the winner in 2021. He had a not great year last year. I think that's going to get better for him, plus 750. King Henry, plus 800. Josh Jacobs. Bijan Robinson, so interesting. He's here for the most at 1,300. Then you got Saquon Barkley. I think he's got till end of today to figure out if he's going to be on the team here. I think that deadline is, I know Giants fans, how are we feeling here? But what are you doing for rushing yards?
Yeah, sweating on Saquon. I don't blame the guy, right? The contract is not ideal for him, but we got to pay him or else our offense is without an identity.
Yes.
Moving on from my Giants fandom, and me and our producer Kirsten will sweat that out and chat about that later. For this bet, I'm not going Saquon. I'm going with chalk again, Nick Chubb, but I have an ulterior pick you can make. You can go with Bijan for the reasons I laid out, that I think he could win Rookie of the Year. He could do so on the back of a league-leading rushing season, right? Which would be fantastic. But I think he could do it in Atlanta with such a run-focused offense. But what's another run-focused offense is the Cleveland Browns. And Nick Chubb is an absolute tank. Beyond how good his running acumen is, how much of a knack he has for just finding the pocket, hitting the hole so perfectly, and following his blockers. Well, that's the reason. His blockers. Number 2 ranked offensive line behind just the Eagles. And these offensive lines just move mountains. They're fantastic. And Chubb has such a great relationship with a lot of these blockers that I really love the way he runs behind them. I think it's going to continue to be really successful in 2023. So behind guys like Joel Bitonio, Jack Conklin, watch out for Nick Chubb just bowling people over. I like him to win this most rushing yards this season.
I like that. I like Nick Chubb as well. I when I was looking at this, I was like, I feel like he kind of can't go wrong with a lot of these guys on the top, and it's trying to figure out, who I think has some good value there. And I still think that there's value on Derrick Henry. I know you talked about it earlier, how he is a year older, and there's a lot of question marks kind of surrounding the Titans. And even though they just got D-Hop, the offense is still going to run through Derrick Henry. And this is a guy that you just can't stop. I mean, his stiff arm is the thing of nightmares. And, he has won this award twice. He's a 2-time NFL rushing champion. JT won it in 2021. And what I find most interesting is when I was looking at the lines on this, his line dropped. So his line was set at 1225.5, but after signing D-Hop, this has now dropped down to 1180.5. And so it's kind of go ahead and take that over on Derrick Henry. But I kind of feel like there's a little bit of disrespect here, because even though you have DeAndre Hopkins, and yes, maybe that passing game is going to get a little bit better, it's still going to run through Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is still that guy. And so for me, I kind of like this plus 1,800 because he's getting disrespected on his total yards.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. The addition of D-Hop can go both ways, like you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
You might look at it and say, well, D-Hop has way more opportunities now because they'll be so anticipating the run with King Henry back there. Or flip it. And now with coverage having to sit back, and maybe you're looking at, Tannehill and D-Hop connecting more, and King Henry gets more opportunities and a little more wiggle room than you might have had before.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm leaning on here. Okay, looking at receiving yards, we got Justin Jefferson plus 600. He was the offensive player of the year last year. Jamar Chase plus 700. Tyreek Hill plus 800. Cooper Kupp. Lord, what is happening with the Rams? I don't even know, but I guess you can't count that guy out. Plus 900, Devontae Adams. A lot of question marks in Vegas with Jimmy Garoppolo and what that offense is going to look like. And then you got A.J. Brown down there at 15-1. Who are we looking at for the most receiving yards?
So, Katie, I'm going way off the board here. And again,
all right. Hey, all right.
Oh, you're off the board as well. Okay, this will be interesting. So, off the board here.
You've given a lot of chalk, so I'm liking the you are a well-rounded bettor, which we appreciate on this show.
I gotta be right. I can't just be straight down the middle here. Although you look at Justin Jefferson's name, it's really hard to drag your finger away from clicking place bet.
Yeah.
Because, geez, man, what a stud that guy is. And now you add Jordan Addison, who you talked about as maybe a long shot for Rookie of the Year on one of our other episodes. So maybe, again, target share could be taken away, or maybe they're focusing on Addison and Jefferson has an even bigger year. But I'm not going with him. I'm going off the board. And that selection is going to be New York Jets wide receiver Garrett Wilson, who won the Offensive Rookie of the Year in his first year.
Okay, we're pairing this with MVP.
That's right. It's all part of the Aaron Rodgers narrative, right? And you do that. We were molded in this invisible force field here. Yeah. You do that. He did that last season, Katie, with freaking Mike White throwing balls to him over there, and Zach Wilson, and absolutely nobody. Joe Flacco, he had 1,100 yards receiving on how many? Like 150 targets with those three quarterbacks. Now he has Aaron Rodgers with Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard, two of his old mates for safety blankets, and Garrett Wilson, the guy that can really break out with him and potentially create a good New York Jets offense for once in how many seasons has it been? So I really feel like he has all the opportunity in the world to have a massive season with Aaron Rodgers there. With Breece Hall back too in the backfield. I mean, they could really click. So watch out for Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers connecting. Who do you like in this one?
Well, one, I really love that. And two, because I think because he brought over, some of his favorite pass catchers from Green Bay, I think that people are overlooking Garrett Wilson a little bit because they're like, oh, he's just going to go to the guys that he always knows. Now it's helpful that they're there. But I agree with you on this one. And I think the young buck is going to have a huge breakout year with Rodgers. I'm looking at Tyreek Hill. Now, I know that there's a lot of concern with Tua, right? And the health of Tua. He gets injured, he gets one more concussion, he may never play again, type of thing, right? And so I'm hesitant. Excuse me. I'm hesitant to bet on a lot of Miami futures. But when I look at Tyreek Hill, the reason why I find this interesting and possibly worthy of your money is that Tyreek Hill had an incredible year last year, and Tua didn't even play in all of the games. One, Tyreek Hill is healthy all the time. He has appeared in 108 of a possible 114 games in the first 7 years of his career. That is almost every single game he has played, including all 17 games in his first year with Miami. He had 119 catches, 1,710 receiving yards. Both of those are franchise records, and Tua wasn't even playing in all of those games. So let's say Tua is healthy this season, God willing, and does not get another concussion. Hill's going to go up like this. He's going to be even better than he was last season. So at plus 1,800, I think he's kind of a sneaky one.
Yeah, same points I made for the Jets. Mike White, Zach Wilson, Joe. You can make the same points for the Dolphins, right? Because Teddy Bridgewater wasn't even throwing to Hill at the end of it. It was Skylar Thompson, and he still put up those numbers. So for all the reasons you said, if Tua stays healthy, he could put up record-setting numbers.
I couldn't agree more. All right, Danny, thank you so much for joining us. We missed you. Happy to have Mr. Monday back on season 2 of Moxie Bets. This is Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social, and we'll see you next time.